Hello and welcome back to the channel, everybody. My name is Dark Sage Walker, and there we go. Really, jazz soundtrack? You know what? I'm just choosing my own this time. The hell with it. I'm over this. We've had an overabundance of the jazz soundtrack lately, so I am just picking. I'm picking my own. And we'll go back to playing fair next episode. So, what do I want to run today? I think what we've got going on for ourselves today is just a little flavor of the usual, I guess. But I did want to go in a slightly different direction with things. I use Tracer Barrage all the time, but what are some things that I don't commonly use in builds like this? Oh, pardon me. Normally I would just say, we got Tracer Barrage, pick Spark Array, pick any two random basic and dash, and call it a day. But I want to try something a little different. Like, there's got to be something that's I don't use very often in builds like this. Again, Dynamic Disarray, pretty common. I'm thinking what I want to do is I want to have an option where instead of going full control like I normally do, I resign myself to having a good long to mid-range option. That would of course be Tracer Barrage. But then also give myself a close range kind of like strong option to slap people around with. And I'm trying to decide what that should be. Mostly because I'm just experimenting with this idea of combining slow but powerful, or in this case, close range but powerful, with ranged and rapid. Maybe Thundering Chain. Nope, you know what? We're gonna go heavy fire, because I want to use Ignition Drive. So we're going to go a little heavy on the flames side of things, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. And then we're going to go Razor Burst. Do we want to use the same basic? I think it's a good idea just to keep enemies from overwhelming. And there you go. Oh, wait. As per usual, when you do a critical hit build based around the Awe Robe, you want to improve your critical hit chance so you can rake in those sweet rewards of the increased critical hit damage. Yeah, that sounds fair to me. Alright, as per usual, we are going to... I don't think this is the build for it, but I'm reminding myself. Someone in my Discord wanted to see me do a Death Scythe run, and even though they found the last episode I did with the Death Scythe, that doesn't mean I couldn't do it again. So that's not going to be this episode, but in the future. Like, maybe what I do is I focus on doing the Death Scythe, just get that first and then build a run around that. Or, be smart, build the run around it and then go get the Death Scythe, whatever ends up working. And I think we're just going to take a risk and go. Somehow that worked out. I don't have words. There we go. Yeah, this is feeling pretty comfortable so far. Of course, with everything revolving around elemental summoners, it's getting a little much. Okay, Spice Rack is okay for this build. It's not great, but it could get better if I have other elements. Well, oh, hello. Okay, everything is looking mighty interesting right now. Go down already. Christ, who do you think you are? Yeah, actually, this build is kind of fun right now. Not even gonna lie, I'm very much enjoying the long-range fire with the close-range wind. It's kind of making my morning, and yes, I am recording this at about 7:30 a.m. for those of you who are wondering. There's probably like none of you, if I'm being honest, who probably don't care when this is being recorded. But I wanted to take a bit to talk about some of the ridiculous video game fanboying that I've been seeing floating around lately. Because, yeah, there's been, as I said in my last episode, yeah, there's been some very polarizing releases that have come out recently, and I acknowledge that. But I also don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Because there's gonna be polarizing releases coming out every year. It's just a matter of, you know, how well can, like, what can we get out of it? What can we glean in the meantime? Which, if your name happens to be Activision Blizzard, the only thing you care about is how much you can milk your fan base and, you know, the previous amount of goodwill you have. Excited birds are in the background. Hopefully you're okay with that. If you're not, sorry, I don't really care. But I guess when I'm talking about the video game fanboying, what really caught my attention to it this time around, and yes, it happens a lot. I'm aware that it happens more than just in this incident, is how some people can't just be happy for other people's successes. Case in point, I was reading an article, or actually it was a YouTube video, talking about how there's a lot of salt in the video game community over Final Fantasy XVI not getting as good of review scores as Legend of Zelda not Breath of the Wild, I mean that too, but, you know, Tears of the Kingdom. And it left me to stop and wonder why is there any sort of argument or debate about that? And I don't mean in the... Okay, hold on. I'm going to actually take the portal like a smart person. I guess in this case, only a semi-smart person, because I completely forgot that the portal was a thing until I looked at it again. Okay, I'm getting careless. I mean, do I even want Water Prison? Not really. Line Shock Agents is okay, but is that really something that I want? I mean, as I've said before, my issue with the agent spells in most normal scenarios is that they don't build signature. was dumb. I'm making a lot of really bad decisions here, if you can't tell. Okay, well I see plenty of things here that I want. And we've got a very good start to the run here if things go the way I'm thinking they will. And they will. Trust me, I might be playing poorly now, but that doesn't mean I'm going to be that things are going to be going badly the entire game. Like, this just works out too well. Alright, this is a beautiful boost in power, and we still have some combat rooms to go through to earn back some of that money. Like, what I came out of that thinking was, okay, first of all, why should anyone care so much about which game is getting better review scores? I mean, first of all, they're two different system exclusives, so you would think just predicated on that, and you're probably going to hear the word predicated a couple of times in this episode, so be aware that I put on my big boy vocabulary pants today. Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted, is to have up button drama. But it seems like that would be a reason to be happy. It means that two out of the three big console makers have a killer app on their system. Which, to be fair, for Sony and Nintendo, this is nothing new. They both have plenty of good games on their system. Maybe some controversial picks, thinking mostly of The Last of Us 2 on that one. But that doesn't mean that it's not still a system seller. And the game has plenty of defenders. Now, this episode is not about whether those defenders are misguided or not. Suffice it to say, many of us don't necessarily agree. But that's not the important part. The important part is that both Nintendo and Sony have a new killer app that people want to play. You would think that would be good enough for most people. But some people are never happy unless the thing that they like is on top of the world. In preparation for this, I decided, okay, let's go to Metacritic and see what exactly the scores are. See if there's something that the fanboys are so upset about that it's worth looking into, because with Final Fantasy XVI being one of the most anticipated titles of the year, we might have a case on our hands to be upset if the Metacritic score is something like, 67. Then you stop and go, okay, whose palms were greased to give this bad reviews? And not just a few, like everyone's. Like, when you start thinking along those lines, it's like, does there really, like, if you're talking about a conspiracy involving that many people, that's starting to get pretty ridiculous, don't you think? But that isn't the case. So, for reference, Final Fantasy XVI is currently sitting at an 88 on Metacritic. That's like, 88th percentile. That's really freaking good. That's like, this game, like, let's look at it in one mathematical sense. That is basically saying this game's problems only take it down by 12% of a perfect score. It's still really good in my eyes. That's That's a pretty amazing game, in my opinion. I don't know what you guys are thinking. I don't know. Am I the one who's out of touch? Who knows? Now, Tears of the Kingdom is sitting at a 96. That's like, oh my god! That's like a freaking legendary game. That's a game where out of 100, its problems only pull it down by freaking 4%. Like, because there's never going to be any such thing as a 100% perfect game that makes everyone go, yep, this is it. Nothing will ever be better than this. But we should also... Alright, gotta go back here. We should also clarify the idea that when I say that, you know, that the problems only account for losing 4% of your score, or in Final Fantasy XVI's case, 12% of your score. First of all, you have to understand that a problem for one might not be a problem for all. Unless you're talking about things like frame rate issues, or bad writing, or, you know, the game just straight up doesn't function. But those aren't small problems. Okay, cool. I will grab this, I will grab this, and you know what? I'll grab this too. No, so when I say that a game's problems are only pulling it down so much, that is to say that the problems are, like, more or less minor. That's like, you know, there's some translation issues, or there's a part of the game that doesn't function as intended, like, you know, one of the big problems with the Super Nintendo release of Final Fantasy VI is that the evasion stat is bugged and actually doesn't work. You know, that's an example. It's like, is the game still fantastic? By most measures, yes. It's just, you know, it's got those problems that keep it from being like something that an RPG fan specifically would rate as a freaking 100% game. And I don't see that as a bad thing. Like, where is it written that every game that comes out, you know, is either a ride or die 100%? That's ridiculous. But let's get back to the point that I was on here. Oh, hold on. I just saw something important. So, Tears of the Kingdom has a 96. Again, freaking phenomenal score. Considering the sorts of things that I've seen players doing in that game, I'd say that makes good sense. It's a game where it's literally a sandbox mechanics, adventure, you know, it literally does have something for everyone. It's just it doesn't have RPG elements, but Zelda's never had RPG elements. Hold on. Legend of Zelda 2 would like to have a word with me on that. But yeah, it's not a game that's heavily predicated on RPG elements. There's that word again, in case you're wondering where it was going to come back. So, I wouldn't even say that that's an issue to speak of. Now, by comparison, there is nothing wrong with the game getting an 88%. Like, that's a phenomenal title. What are you upset about? That it didn't score better than Tears of the Kingdom? Why are we even worried about that? Why is that something that you're spending your time thinking about? Is it because you want something to hold over someone's head? Is that the whole purpose? And if that's the purpose, why are you getting upset about it? It's like, what are you getting out of that? What is the secret to your angst and rage? Why do you feel as though that's something to even worry about? Because in my opinion, you've still got two very, very good games. Games that will help define the year and, distract us from memories of Redfall and Lord of the Rings Gollum. And again, I get that not every game is made for everyone. Then again, no anything is made for everyone. Sticking with what I got, but that is a very good dash. So all I can come up with is, because we still have games that are within the 88th percentile, the reason why you're upset is because it didn't get to the 97th percentile? Like, here's another way to look at it. Every game is going to have flaws. And a lot of the times, that's just because games in general have a lot of moving parts. And it's going to be nearly impossible for all of those moving parts to work perfectly at all times. Like, there will be times in which something bugs out. There will be times in which something doesn't, in which unexpected things happen, and things just don't quite go the way you think they will. Or, something else to chew on here. Maybe something didn't quite work out as intended. Let's pause on that one for a moment and define a little bit more of what I'm talking about. The Final Fantasy series is an RPG series, which means that largely your experience is based around playing the role of a character, making selections and playing that role properly. In other words, that is what RPG means in this case. We're gonna take the Taggart Scroll. Now, one thing that role-playing games are largely predicated around for use is the idea of building yourself up. Which is where the idea of RPG elements come in, making yourself stronger by doing something repeatedly. Oh. Hey, I suck. So, let me finish this point and then I'll just be done. The idea being that, RPG elements are, kind of important to an RPG. Go figure. And one of the biggest complaints about Final Fantasy XVI is that it's largely an action game now and not really much of an action RPG, since the RPG elements have been so heavily toned down. Now, you could see the direction they were going since Final Fantasy XIII, honestly. And it's just been going further and further in that direction, whereas their kind of more actual, RPG-heavy franchises are now things like Bravely Default and Octopath Traveler. But those of us who grew up with when it was called Squaresoft firmly remember Final Fantasy being just squarely, an RPG. So does that mean that 16 is awful because it's not strictly an RPG? No, absolutely not. It seems like it's going to like it's a fine game, and any game that ranks like in that upper 80th percentile should be applauded. But people are sad because it didn't get better review scores than Tears of the Kingdom, a game where all of its mechanics not only work as well as intended, but oftentimes better than intended. Like, there's something to be said for a game where you can straight up build a full-on transformer and just go stomping across the fields of Hyrule, laser blasting everything in the face, because it dared to look at you funny. Hey, that's why Tears of the Kingdom has a 96th percentile grade, because not only do most of the mechanics work as intended, there are still bugs and glitches, but for the most part they work even better than intended. Right, that's why it's 96th percentile. It's a legendary achievement of game design and development, especially considering that it's still running on the Nintendo Switch. Right, that should say a lot. And anyone who says otherwise is deluding themselves. But let's not belabor the point. The point is both games are fantastic, and both games should be applauded and cheered for. So this idea of disliking that someone's chosen game didn't do better than someone else's chosen game is missing the point entirely. It's just this fanboy gatekeeper mentality, which I will talk about in the next episode, but I've already rambled on long enough after I lost the run, so I want to thank you guys very much for watching this episode, and I already know what my mistakes were, so let's not get too crazy about that. I once again fell into that habit of dashing through enemies instead of just backing off and letting them come to me. That's on me. I acknowledge that. But I do thank you guys for your continued support. I very much appreciate you coming and spending some of your free time with me. I hope you have a fantastic day or night wherever you may happen to be, and I hope you have a wonderful day. My name is Dark Sage Walker, and take care, everyone. And if you know someone who actually is salty about these sorts of things, give them a hug. They probably need it.